This is an MSNBC special presentation.
Back to our investigation. We've been showing you how many airlines get it wrong when it comes to service. Now we'd like to show you one that gets it right. Here again, Josh Mankiewicz.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'd like to continue boarding for 1923. As you can see, this is a full flight.
If you fly regularly, then you know. When it comes to air travel, you usually get what you pay for. Unless, as we've seen, you get even less. Does it have to be this way? Is it even possible to get good service without paying for a first-class ticket? We looked at surveys of frequent travelers, and we saw that one airline, Midwest Express, consistently got the best ratings of any domestic carrier. We decided to compare it to Delta, a major airline with an average customer service ranking. So we flew to Atlanta on Delta, and then back to Milwaukee on Midwest Express. Both flights were at about the same time of day, and we paid exactly the same fare. We wanted to see what kind of service we'd get for our money.
We should probably get in line, man.
First up, Delta.
We're now boarding, delayed Delta Airlines.
Boarding time. In coach, there are 2 seats on one side, 3 on the other. Luckily, we're in a row of 2, so no one gets stuck in the middle. But let's face it, it's pretty cramped, and no one's ever going to describe me as tall. And there's nowhere to put my jacket except on my lap.
How are you?
Good, how are you today?
All right.
But when we boarded Midwest Express, we noticed the difference right away.
This is so wide.
There's plenty of space in the overhead bin, plenty of pillows and blankets. And the seating? Well, there's only one cabin, and it looks like first class. And the flight attendant notices the balancing act I'm doing with my jacket and offers to hang it up.
They hung up my jacket.
We're airborne on Delta, and we've reached cruising altitude. We've also reached a moment that many Americans would describe as dinner time.
We'd like to offer you complimentary beverages of your choice tonight.
We get a free glass of wine because we were late, and a little bag of snack mix. But dinner? Well, you're looking at it.
This is the summer harvest snack mix, and this is what our harvest has brought. These look like breakfast cereal. These would be good in a salad if we had a salad, and it fits all on one cocktail napkin with room to spare.
On Midwest, we also get snack mix, but as for dinner,
Would you guys like shrimp scampi or chilled beef tenderloin over linguine?
I'll have the beef.
Okay.
beef. It's what's for dinner. But the scampi looks pretty good too.
Okay, that's the best looking airline food I've ever seen. I mean, that's amazing. That's an actual portion.
Oh, and the wine?
Thank you.
You guys any Chardonnay or Cabernet?
How much for the wine?
It's free. It's complimentary with all our meals.
There's no charge?
Nope.
Is that just today or every day?
Nope, every day. All the time.
Midwest Express spends almost $10 per passenger on meals, which is more than twice what most other domestic airlines spend.
This airline stands alone.
Air travel expert Terry Tripler.
They're almost a 60s or 70s type airline.
In fact, travel on Midwest Express is like a time warp.
And bravo to your chefs for the canapes, fruit cocktail, consomme, Duchess potatoes, asparagus, salad, cake, and coffee. And the free champagne.
That commercial was from the 1950s. But today on Midwest Express, dinner is served on real china with real silverware and linen napkins. We got a fresh spinach salad, bread that wouldn't double as a blunt instrument, and pie with what appeared to be real whipped cream.
Normally, I don't eat dessert on airliners. Normally, I don't eat food on airliners. But I'm thinking that in the interest of journalistic integrity, I should probably eat all of this.
Back on Delta, darkness came. Dinner did not. So we asked why.
Is there any actual food on here?
Can I get that one more?
No, but there's no, are they eating up in first class?
Yes.
They are.
Yes.
Because they're paying for it.
We paid for it too, I think,
But we don't get it. How about pillows and blankets? Why can't other airlines be like Midwest Express if Midwest Express can do it for the same amount of money that Delta can?
Unfortunately, the other airlines have, the name of the game is butts in the seats. And get them in, get them there, get them where they're going. The service is not important. And they just don't have to do the Midwest type service to attract passengers.
And on Midwest Express, remember, we paid the same price. Throughout dinner, the flight attendants reappeared to offer more wine. Then they returned with coffee. And this isn't just at dinner. Midwest Express serves a meal on every flight. On an afternoon flight a couple of days later, they again offered free wine, a fresh salad, and then their trademark, hot chocolate chip cookies baked on board. I'm not a member of the Frequent Flyer Club, but tonight I'm a member of the Clean Plate Club. In all, we saw the Midwest flight attendants 7 times. The Delta cabin crew came by once. Thanks a lot. Now, we're not picking on Delta. Their service is fairly comparable to any major U.S. airline. Midwest Express clearly has a different philosophy and a different business model, catering primarily to business travelers and flying only to 28 cities, meaning fewer bargain fares and no coast-to-coast service. Could the largest airlines be run like Midwest? Well, one reason that might not work is because travelers would find it harder to get that low-fare ticket. When you ask passengers what they really want, they say things like, well, I want cheap flights, and I want everybody to be polite to me, and I don't ever want to be late. In short, I want to spend the least amount of money on the airlines, and I want the airlines to spend the most amount of money and attention on me possible. Is that reasonable?
No, it is not. What is not reasonable is the passenger who is demanding the $198 transcontinental flight and then demanding a tremendous amount of services from the airline. I think we have to be somewhat reasonable in this.
These days, some of the major carriers are trying to be more user-friendly. American and United have taken out rows of seats to increase legroom in coach. Continental and Delta have expanded overhead bin space. That's being done because many passengers don't like to check their bags. And coming up, we'll show you why.
What is the technology behind broadband?
You're watching MSNBC.
We now return to our MSNBC special presentation, The Plain Truth.
There is nothing more frustrating than standing at a luggage carousel, watching it circle and then slowly grind to a halt, and your bags aren't there. A year ago, the airlines made yet another pledge, promising to try to return missing luggage within 24 hours. The clock's running. Here's Edie Magnus.
We picked a random Thursday afternoon in October. We came to Newark Airport in the early afternoon, the least busy time. Almost immediately, we found passengers standing dazed and confused around the luggage carousels. Brad and Nancy Barnes have flown from Texas for a once-a-year carefree getaway weekend in New York City.
Sort of get away from the kids and just have some fun.
The Barnes flight into New York's LaGuardia Airport was canceled, so American Airlines flew them into Newark instead. They arrived, their bags did not.
I had all of our outfits packed, everything we were going to wear. Now we have nothing, no clothes.
Over at Continental's luggage area, Carl and Anna Gustafson are feeling equally put out. They've flown nonstop from Los Angeles for a 2-week trip along the East Coast.
We checked 4 bags, 3 made it and 1 didn't. It's a garment bag with our dress clothes, dress shoes, overcoats, etc.
Ron Catich has also arrived on Continental nonstop from Phoenix. He's in town on business to meet new clients.
I got 1 bag, still waiting for my other bag that has all my suits, clothes, everything else in it.
We follow Ron with our hidden cameras and get the first clue as to why passengers get peeved over lost luggage. He goes over to Continental's baggage claim office,
If you don't know what you're doing,
where he waits and waits and waits for 30 minutes in line just to speak to an agent. And then he can only watch as the agent types and types and types for another 20 minutes into a computer.
So you're going to speak to me in a minute, right?
Until finally he hands Ron a claim form with an 800 number.
What are your claim numbers? So then you think it's going to be in at 7 o'clock. You're guessing then. What you're doing. Yeah. Okay. I can't have a guess. It wasn't a good experience. I would say the customer service was lousy.
And how do Brad and Nancy fare over at American Airlines' lost luggage office?
We were playing there for 20, 30 minutes and they gave us this piece of paper. And
much the same way.
And a 1-800 number and sort of a wish and a prayer that we'll get our luggage.
The 800 number. the mythical place where they trace your bags and can tell you where they are and when they're coming your way. All of the passengers we found were reassured someone at those 800 numbers would have an answer, that the airlines were on the case and would almost certainly live up to their pledge to find and return the lost luggage within the next 24 hours. And while no one is offered money to buy essential personal items that he or she might need right away,
My glasses, my contact stuff, everything is in there.
they head for their hotels. What's there to worry about, right? 8 o'clock later that night in New York City, 6 hours into their romantic getaway weekend, Brad and Nancy have been spending their time with their lips pressed to the phone, calling once every hour or so to American's 800 number, even though American has promised it will, quote, attempt to contact customers who've provided phone numbers.
The people that answered didn't know where the luggage was, they didn't know who we were, and the number that they told us to give them did not track our baggage.
Brad's been forced to buy clothes. All he'd worn on the plane were shorts and a t-shirt, so he and Nancy can keep a long-planned dinner reservation on this, their first big night away from the kids. He's purchased some other personal items, too. Will American reimburse him? He says they've said no repeatedly. Brad and Nancy are clearly having a streak of bad luck. This restaurant where they'd planned to dine was shut down. There'd been a fire.
We are the out-of-towners. This is a nightmare.
For businessman Ron Katich, the nightmare extends into the next morning. He's in suburban New Jersey, and now 20 hours into his working weekend, has heard nothing from Continental, despite its pledge that someone from its state-of-the-art baggage resolution center will contact him. Instead, Ron's on his 5th phone call to the Continental 800 number.
085008.
As at the airport, he's forced to wait for nothing.
Thank you.
So he heads off to meet those new clients in his jeans and a borrowed shirt. As for Carl and Anna Gustafson, last night Continental's 800 number agent seemed quite optimistic.
She also used the expression there was a 99% chance that it would be here in the morning.
But the next morning, Carl is stunned to learn there's a 100% chance that his luggage is somewhere else.
And they told me that yes, the bags had been located. They were in Lisbon, Portugal.
Portugal? What? Somehow the unattended bag breached security and made it all the way to Lisbon. To make matters worse, Continental can't get it back to Carl for 4 days, when they'll be in Maine.
It is a significant hassle.
So now they must go shopping. They choose a high-end department store.
Actually, I like this.
As Carl needs just about everything for his days on the road and nights at parties they've planned to attend.
Do you have a light gray?
Who's paying for all this?
Sure.
The airline didn't offer any money, but when Carl persists, Continental finally agrees to reimburse him $25 a day for 3 days. Of course, that's not even going to pay for one of these shoes, but anything over $75, he'll have to shell out of pocket. 20 miles away, a now furious Ron Katich is finally replacing his wardrobe too.
It's been about 30 hours since I lost my luggage, and basically I have no updates, just nothing.
Interestingly, Ron has been so insistent with Continental, he's been authorized to spend $250, more than 3 times the maximum Carl was told he'd receive. By law, airlines don't have to reimburse you when bags are delayed, but many promise to do so anyway. How much can you get? Often, it's arbitrary. The best nagger wins. So now Ron can get some pants and shirts.
$251.47.
But there's not time to tailor the jacket he'll need the next night for an evening out on the town, a Broadway show, and dinner at New York's pricey Windows on the World. So Ron is forced to borrow a jacket from the maitre d'.
Didn't fit me. Had stains and everything else on it, so, I just It was an inconvenience.
The next morning, he's headed home. 4 days have gone by. No sign of his luggage, no calls from Continental. Ron says he's now called their 800 number around 22 times.
I asked him, did it get on the plane? We can't tell you that. We don't know. Did it come to Newark? Did it go someplace else? We don't know that. They had no explanation where it was at whatsoever.
That doesn't surprise Alexander Anilik, an attorney who has sued airlines and arbitrated disputes between companies and passengers. Anilik says there's a reason our frustrated travelers can't get any answers from the folks at those 800 numbers. He says the expectation that our bags are actually tracked all along their journeys, like, say, a FedEx package is tracked, is a myth.
They haven't done it yet because it's not enough pressure to have them do it.
Those long tags that they put on your bags, they have barcodes, but computers aren't actually tracking the progress from point A to point B?
It only has your name and the city that the bag is supposed to go to. And it's for taking your bag from the counter, putting it down the first conveyor belt. It's capable of doing much more, but the airlines aren't utilizing it. It costs money, and that's not what's being done.
Some airlines are starting to test out more sophisticated bag tracking technology, which could let them know where any bag is at any given time. Still, many passengers feel that's too little, too late.
Does it surprise you that the airlines are 1 year into a new pledge to deliver better customer service?
Yes, that does surprise me.
We sat down with our passengers several weeks after their trips. Ron Catich did get his bag back, not within the pledged 24 hours, but after he got back home. Carl and Anna got theirs 6 days into their trip in Bar Harbor, Maine. And after NBC made inquiries, Continental actually coughed up $500 for Carl's clothes. And Brad and Nancy, American did get their bag back within 1 day, in the middle of the first night of their trip, the night those romantic dinner plans went up in smoke. Still, they were frustrated by the experience.
They did not know what they were doing, and I would think that they would have employees in place who had been trained and were qualified to handle, unhappy passengers.
All complained that from the get-go they were made to feel it's your problem, beginning with being told they should just hang out to see if their bags would arrive later.
They refused us the forms to fill out for lost baggage, saying that the policy was that we had to watch all the carousels for how long, I don't know.
When they told me it was in Lisbon, I said, well, somebody needs to do something here. And her response was, well, we don't have to do anything.
They didn't want to tell you anything. They just wanted to pass the buck, basically, to somebody else.
If they say, hey, we've got an overburdened system, we've got too many passengers and too many bags.
Well, then they should throw that policy away and not hand it out to people. I mean, if that's their policy, they should follow it.
And there should be accountability.
Both Continental and American told us they regretted the inconvenience to their customers, and both noted they had a good record in handling baggage.
But it turns out that all the airlines' big boast about bags, that 99.5% of bags and their owners arrive together, may not be true. A recent government report found that every passenger who flew was being counted when only about half checked bags. The conclusion? The mishandled luggage problem may be twice as bad as anyone thought.
And what happens if the airlines lose your bag permanently?
That's where the real aggravation starts.
In a moment, we'll tell you what you can do if that happens to you.
Coming up, where do you think all that missing baggage finally lands? In a moment, we'll take you to a huge warehouse, a bargain hunter's paradise, and one of the best-kept secrets in the airline business.
Look at that. You're watching MSNBC.
Some airlines airlines have better records than others when it comes to losing your luggage. Here's how the 9 major carriers ranked from best to worst in mishandled bag reports in the year 2000. Delta had the fewest reports of mishandled bags, followed by U.S. Airways and Southwest Air. Then came Northwest, Continental, American, TWA, United Airlines, and at the bottom, America West had the worst record for losing passengers' luggage. For more information on what to do if your bags are lost, check out our website. The address is msnbc.com. Coming up, what to do when your lost bags stay lost for good, when our special The Plain Truth continues.
What helps create wireless?
Your weather today.
This is an MSNBC special presentation.
More now of our investigation. Ever wonder what happens to lost luggage? We're about to show you. It's one of the better kept secrets of the air travel industry. Here again, Edie Magnus.
Is the table set? Yes. Okay. Well, I'll get the milk out.
It wasn't until Dan and Susan Gottheimer's vacation was over that they realized their travel troubles were just starting. Last summer, they'd flown the family for 2 weeks from the Washington, D.C. area to Seattle when United Airlines lost one of their bags, the one with all of Susan's clothes and some of the kids as well. They say they'd put their names and phone numbers outside and in, but it never turned up. And in what may now sound like a common refrain, they say evidence of any kind of customer service commitment was nowhere to be found.
United will deploy more than 600 additional state-of-the-art baggage scanners so it can more accurately track bag transfer information between airports. These scanners allow United to provide customers with immediate and accurate information on the status of their baggage and allow for improved on-time performance.
Doesn't sound like
didn't work for us.
We've been
They
in the
had
dark.
no clue.
From day one,
no
they don't know where our bags are.
Whether it got lost at Dulles, whether it got lost at Seattle, whether it got sent some other place, we have no idea. They have no record of it, I don't think. They've never given us any indication that they have any clue as to where it is anywhere on the earth.
After 45 days, the luggage was formally declared lost, and the claims process set in motion. For Susan, it meant hours of paperwork.
Well, I had to estimate, based on my memory about what the item was, where I bought it, when I bought it, what the color was, what the material was, what the size was, what the brand was, and the amount of money that I'd paid for it.
For years, the most any flyer could recover for a lost bag was $1,250. But as part of their initiative to deliver better customer service, all of the nation's airlines recently increased that limit to $2,500. That's the good news. The bad news?
That doesn't mean you're going to get the money.
Consumer attorney Alexander Analik.
Because they're going to do their best to cut down that $2,500. The suit you have on it cost you $280. You've had it for so many months, we're going to give you $140. They try to give you depreciated amounts. They try to question whether you had all of that in the luggage, in essence, calling you a crook.
And there's more bad news, says Analik, who has sued airlines on behalf of travelers. He points out there's a long list of items the airlines don't ever have to reimburse you for, including cameras, jewelry, and electronic equipment. The Gottheimers' claim totaled more than $2,000. United did not deny it, they say, but rather did not do anything about it.
It's like being in the Twilight Zone. They informed us the decision would be made in 45 days. After 45 days, they informed us the decision would be made in 60 days. After 60 days, they informed us the decision would be made after 90 days.
I think that they're hoping that we'll just go away, and that's their strategy, is to just make it so arduous, so many hoops to jump through, that most people would give up.
That's true.
It's ridiculous.
I called Chicago finally at one point on our own dime because it wasn't an 800 number, and after a lengthy discussion with someone at corporate headquarters, I was basically told, if you don't like it, don't fly United anymore.
And And Dan says that adding insult to injury, the $100 in emergency money that United had offered the family while on vacation to replace missing items also never arrived.
And to this day, it's never arrived. I've called there, and they say, we sent it, and then they say, we'll cancel it, and we'll send you another one. And when I complained about it, they questioned me about whether other mail had not arrived at the house. Everything else has arrived. We haven't had a mail problem. And they said, well, people tend to steal United envelopes more than others.
Dan called United to tell the airline he'd agreed to talk to NBC, hoping it would spur a response, and says yet again he was told the check for those emergency expenses, as well as his final claim settlement, was in the mail. This time, however, it came. Not long after our interview, the Gottheimers received money for emergency expenses, as well as a check for the full amount of the claim they'd filed for their lost bag. Still, the Gottheimers wonder whatever happened to their luggage. We've learned there's a good chance it ended up here, at the Unclaimed Baggage Center in Scottsboro, Alabama. If the airlines can't find a bag's owner after 90 days, the luggage is sold to this privately owned business, an entire city block in size. The Unclaimed Baggage Center takes in thousands of lost passenger items each day, then resells them to the public at discounted prices. We took our cameras in for a look. We found a bargain hunter's paradise with everything from used toiletries, women's shoes, and previously owned underwear to expensive electronics, name brand clothing, and fine jewelry that the center has appraised and sells for half off the valued price.
Any Rolexes?
No, not today. We get them occasionally, but they don't stay long.
We saw strands of pearls appraised at more than $5,000. A cut emerald in this display was selling for almost $15,000.
Everyone's really
nothing like as valuable as what we have found. We've had a diamond ring that sold for $23,000.
And many of the items sold here are precisely those the airlines will not reimburse passengers for.
They make money from the jewelry, from the cameras, from the electronics, yet all of the carriers won't pay you 1 penny when you say you've lost it, and they make the money.
We asked the Unclaimed Baggage Center how much it pays the airlines for luggage, but they told us that information is confidential. The center did tell us, however, that it buys the contents of the luggage sight unseen. Neither the center nor the airlines know exactly what is inside. And while it may seem like a lot is for sale here, remember, the airlines tell us less than 0.5% of luggage is permanently lost. But flyer beware. If your luggage is lost for good, don't come here hoping to recover any of it. If you find something you've lost, you'll have to buy it back.
So if somebody says, oh, I lost, this family heirloom and it looks like this and it has this inscription on it.
In fact, we were told items are cleaned and processed to remove any identification. In some cases, that may mean simply covering up with a marker, like this Army duffel bag we saw, which clearly had a name crossed out. So, if you've lost a bag and feel you haven't been made whole by the airline, is there anything you can do?
I sued them. That was it, plain and simple.
Jennifer Marin is a freelance journalist and a United Airlines frequent flyer who says United lost her luggage on a flight from New York to Los Angeles in October of 1999, just as all the airline's new customer service initiatives were going into effect.
I felt very victimized by them.
She says she followed all the rules, filed the claims, provided the receipts. She'd estimated the cost of the contents and the bag itself at $4,000. And then she waited. And then this letter came in the mail.
This is it. And it says, Dear Miss Marin, we have now completed a thorough investigation of your claim. We have concluded that United Airlines will not accept liability. Thus, we are unable to offer any reimbursement.
They just turned you down flat.
They just turned me down flat without any explanation, without any apology, without anything.
Jennifer says she pestered United repeatedly until finally a sales representative told her the claim was being denied because she'd filed claims before for lost luggage.
And I explained to him, but I didn't lose a bag. United Airlines lost the bag. Why should I be penalized for your repeated errors in baggage handling? And I felt that there were allegations being made that I was doing something fraudulent, and I deeply, deeply resented that.
It sounds like at every step in the process, in your communication with the airline, someone was trying to make you go away.
That's true.
And yet the effect was just the opposite.
That's true.
Jennifer Marin sued United in small claims court. She says it was quite user-friendly, required only $15 down to file a claim. She did not need an attorney with her, and most important of all, she says it allowed her to force United to explain itself.
Although it takes a lot of time, you may not be made entirely whole. You will have the satisfaction of a formal confrontation. The airline will not be able to dodge you. You have the satisfaction of facing them in an environment where your comments will be acknowledged, will be recognized, and taken seriously.
Ultimately, the court awarded her $1,250, the old maximum limit for lost luggage, plus interest. Jennifer Marin was then able to do something most of us can't. She trumpeted her victory in a column in USA Today.
Did it feel good to be able to write at the top of the column, "I sued the airlines and won"?
Yeah, it made me feel terrific. Not only for me, but for everybody else who's lost something to the airline.
We asked United Airlines to comment on both the Gottheimers and Jennifer Marin's complaints. The airline said in a statement that United has made a real improvement in baggage handling and has deployed 3,000 state-of-the-art baggage scanners in the field to provide real-time tracking information. But it seems as if the voluntary customer service plans to improve the handling of baggage, service, and information about delays is not working. In a moment, we'll tell you why.
Coming up, what are the 5 things you need to know to keep your trip from turning into an airline travel nightmare? We'll tell you how to get the best fares, how to avoid delays, what's the real time you need to be at the gate. If you get bumped, what do you do? And what do you do if your lost bags stay lost forever? The answers when our special, The Plain Truth, continues. The Plain Truth continues. Here again, Stone Phillips.
You've seen the problems with air travel. You've heard all the promises made by the airline industry. Things should be getting better, but clearly they aren't. And as you'll see, we're not the only ones who've come to that conclusion. Here again, Josh Mankiewicz.
The one for 8:15, they say it's on time.
Our hidden cameras captured it again and again. Airlines failing to live up to the pledges they made in their customer service commitments. Airlines are supposed to give the best possible information about delays, but often they don't.
They didn't know about this earlier, huh?
Well, they didn't update. We can only go by what the computer says.
They're often unable to follow through on pledges to customers whose bags they've lost.
And her response is, well, we don't have to do anything.
All of that leaves travelers feeling helpless and frustrated.
You guys screwed up and now I'm the victim.
But don't take our word for it. In February, the Department of Transportation Inspector General's office released the results of its own year-long audit, testing the airline's customer service promises. The results? The audit noted that in some areas, like offering the lowest fare or responding to customer complaints within 60 days, the airlines are doing better than before. But the audit still noted the airlines aren't doing a good enough job when it comes to informing passengers about flight delays, treating bumped passengers fairly, or returning missing luggage within 24 hours. So if what we've seen over the past 8 months, along with the audit results, are typical, that suggests the customer service plans have made little difference. How's that possible?
That customer service plan has a lot of holes in it right now.
These findings come as no surprise to travel industry expert Terry Tripler, who insists the airlines really committed to very little.
Basically, the points that they promise to be good at are nothing more than common sense customer service that anyone who's interested about customer service would have been doing all along. The points were a joke.
So what they proposed is just pretty much window dressing?
I really think it was.
In hindsight, Tripler and other critics say the industry's voluntary commitment had a built-in flaw. It was voluntary.
That was never obligated. That was one of the agreements. This is a promise. It doesn't mean you have to do it.
And if the airlines fail to live up to their promises, there really aren't any consequences. At least, not for the airlines.
It's basically get to the airport, check in, go to the gate, get on the plane, sit down and shut up.
Airlines are exempt from a lot of regulations that a lot of other businesses in this country are not exempt from. And they're immune to most consumer protection laws.
That's exactly right, and that's where I believe the number one problem lies.
One lesson we learned is that often what the airlines will offer you when problems occur depends on who's behind the counter. Take this common scenario. It's 8:30 p.m. at Washington's Dulles Airport, and our incoming United flight arrives late, causing us to miss our connection to North Carolina.
It's gone.
Not only that, we can't get another flight till morning. So what does the airline owe us in a situation like this? This agent tells us we're on our own.
So you can't get me a hotel here? What about like cab fare to the city?
The reason we're on our own, the supervisor explains, is that our incoming flight was late due to weather and air traffic congestion.
And where's the bad weather? Up there.
But we can't find any weather problems that night. There's not a trace on our flight tracking system. There were air traffic control delays, so we don't argue the point. But when we leave, another gate agent runs after us to help find a hotel and tells us,
I don't think that's fair. What did you say? No, that's it's not your fault. I mean, the doors were open. They just don't want to do it. So
and she admits there was no bad weather. She can't give us a hotel, but she does offer our producers some free food vouchers. Another night in Newark, New Jersey, we're booked on an 8 p.m. Continental flight that's late, then canceled. We're stuck out of town overnight, and we're told because it's due to weather and air traffic, it's on our own dime.
Do you provide anything? Do I get food or a meal or anything? So basically I'm stuck here and I have to pay for my own hotel.
And that is the normal policy. But 2 other nights when we missed the last connection for similar reasons and had to overnight, Delta Airlines gave us free hotels and food vouchers anyway.
They'll figure it out in accounting.
And we noticed something else as we traveled, that how you're treated when something does go wrong can depend not only on who's behind the counter, but how much you paid for your ticket. So if you're pleased with that bargain basement fare you got, beware. There may be some hidden costs.
We missed the last one. They were late getting here.
This family is connecting on TWA through St. Louis, but the inbound flight is late, so they miss their connection. They're on the standby list for the next flight, only to see their place on that list slip and slip.
No, we're the 5th. We just went back out, and now we're the 11th.
From 5th to 11th. And why? Listen to what a gate agent told them.
The more money you pay for your ticket moves you up on the status of standby. I said, well, that's a crock of crap. I said, it should be whoever's on the list first moves off first.
We decided to test that. The flight is booked, but if we bought an open full fare ticket right now, could we jump past this family on the standby list?
Does having a full price ticket put me high up on the standby list?
It does. The standby list is organized by price of fare. Whoever's the most expensive ticket goes ahead.
Just to be sure, we ask a second gate agent about the same thing.
You'll go right behind the highest frequent flyer card holder with an expensive ticket. So you are going to be ahead of the people that have very inexpensive tickets.
Okay. So people who have cheap tickets go at the bottom?
We don't buy a ticket, and the family does make the flight. Of course, considering how complex the air travel system is in the United States, the airlines have a very difficult job to do. And in the course of reporting this story, we came across many airline employees who were courteous, hardworking, and dedicated. In fact, many gate agents told us they're the ones who feel harassed and abused by passengers. And some airline experts echo that, saying that the airlines simply aren't doing a good enough job training their employees or giving them the proper information. We wanted to talk to the Airlines Trade Association about this, the group that successfully lobbied Congress to drop the proposed Passenger Bill of Rights. But the association didn't want to talk to us either.
The industry is really in denial.
Oregon Democratic Senator Ron Wyden originally co-sponsored the Passenger Bill of Rights, which would have had the power of law. But Congress agreed instead to let the airlines make their plan voluntary.
The airline industry is about the only business on the planet where people purchase a product and often can't use it for what it was intended for. This is an industry that has gotten sweetheart treatment from the United States Congress for a long time. That's what I'm trying to change.
What is so noxious to the airline industry about codifying what rights passengers have?
Their arguments against my efforts simply don't pass the smell test. I am not calling for a constitutional right to a fluffy pillow on an airline flight. I am saying that passengers deserve to get straight talk about cancellations, about delays.
And they're afraid to put that into law?
They seem to think that somehow if we get a real passenger bill of rights, that is going to lead to re-regulation. I'm not interested in micromanaging the airline business, but the airlines ought to stop stonewalling. It's time to drop their opposition to giving passengers the truth.
It's been more than a year since the airline's voluntary customer service plan went into effect. And according to the federal government, passenger complaints are still increasing. But in March, Senator Wyden reintroduced that Passenger Bill of Rights. It's awaiting action by the Senate. But even if the laws don't change, there are steps you can take. In a moment, we'll show you what you can do to be a smarter traveler.
Okay, want to get where you're going faster, easier, and cheaper? Here are 5 things you need to know to be a smarter traveler.
How do you get the best fares? There are some easy ways to get where you're going for less. Be flexible about departure and arrival times. Pick off-peak hours and plan in advance. The more lead time you have, the more options you have. What you may not know is that it's best to avoid non-stop flights. Connecting flights may take longer, but they can cost less. And if you can, choose smaller secondary airports. Fares there are often lower. How do you avoid delays? Well, let's face it, there are going to be delays, no matter who's at fault. So try to fly early in the morning before backups start. And when making a reservation, ask for the on-time record of your flight. Airlines are required to give it to you if you request it. What time do you really have to be at the gate so you don't get bumped? It can be confusing, as we found out when we asked some Northwest gate agents.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
15 minutes before departure.
20 minutes prior to departure.
So, which is it? With most major airlines, you must be at the gate 20 minutes ahead of time to keep your seat assignment, and 10 minutes to hold your reservation. But the rules vary, so it's best to get there as early as possible. What do you do if you get bumped? Your airline must confirm you on the next flight that has space, even if it's first class, or get you on another airline. And if it can't get you to your destination within 2 hours of your scheduled arrival time, the airline owes you up to $400. What can you do to prevent bags from being lost? Well, be sure to check your bags at least 30 minutes before your flight, even earlier if you can. If your luggage is checked after an airline's official cutoff, and cutoff times vary, you won't be reimbursed for emergency expenses if the bag doesn't get there. And make sure you have your name and contact information on not only the outside, but the inside of your luggage as well. Experts say most luggage is permanently lost because the outer tag rips off, and no contact information can be found inside.
One final note. The day after our investigation first aired, the Air Transport Association released a statement pledging to take further action to improve customer service, including steps to help inform passengers if their flights are on time before they depart for the airport. It also promised to ensure that airport monitors are accurate, to work to reduce chronically delayed flights, and to establish a more accurate calculation of the number of bags mishandled. To find out which of the country's largest airports and major airlines were the worst in delays and lost luggage, and to learn how to be a smarter traveler, log on to our website. The address is msnbc.com. And that's the plain truth. I'm Stone Phillips. Safe travel.
For information on upcoming programs, go to prime.msnbc.com.
Because I want more than the headlines.